Hi, it's Sam here. We're going to have a look at recording eye movements in this episode. Now, unfortunately, I made a bit of a mess of a previous one, and I didn't remember to switch the screen over. So this is a re-recording, so if the puppet looks a little bit newer, it's because he's got a few more episodes onto him. I had to come back and redo this episode. But it should still be pretty good. So let's get into it. Now, in this episode, I'm going to talk about recording eye movements, and we're going to show a few different ways of doing it, a few different settings, and then how to edit and splice and do some things over the top. But I'm sure it'll be pretty useful. One of the things I'm not going to show much of, but is the use of triggers. And triggers are also useful. Now, if I've got some triggers on me. If I do, I can raise my eyebrows and look a little bit worried. Or I lower my eyebrows, look a bit more serious. I can also close my eyes, which looks a bit smiley and happy. So, for the Wookie, I'm just going to do one of these because I don't have all of these expressions hooked up to the Wookie yet. But let's jump into it. Okay, so let's bring up the Wookie scene. Down the corner. And here's a Wookie. Now, I don't need the microphone for this one because I'm just going to use the eyes. And I might need to take my glasses off. If you can see up here, the light sometimes reflects on the glasses. But, and everything I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a second puppet. We could add me. And the reason for doing that is just to, I'm too big. Whoops, make me a bit smaller, bring me over to the side a little bit. And then, oops, bring me down. Too far over, sorry for the slight delay. There we go. So I'm here in the corner, and so one of the things I wanted to demonstrate, let's just put the microphone back on. One of the things I wanted to demonstrate is I'm here in the scene. Here we go. I'm here in the scene, but the Wookie's not being affected. So if I come over here and click here, now the Wookie's being controlled, and the eyes are moving around and so forth. And so if you've got multiple puppets and you want to record a particular one, it's very important to make sure you arm the puppet you want to record. Make sense? And you arm it by clicking this little red dot. So now it's jumping back to Sam. And now we're arming the Wookie. And so the more things you have in the scene, the more you've got to worry about. Do we have the background? No, I don't. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, but this one's going to be eyes, so I'm going to just turn off the... up here is some buttons. I can turn off the webcam, and I can turn off the microphone. But we're going to use the webcam, just not going to use the microphone at the moment. Cool. So we've got the Wookie selected, and the other thing I want to do is we're going to run through to see what we've got turned on. So at the moment, we've got the dragger is not enabled. In fact, even here, that was just left over from a previous recording. I'm not going to record. I am going to record the eye. I'm going to record the face. Now, the face is how we do things like the eyebrows. So we're going to have the face on. And we don't actually need lip sync. We could leave it on because we turn the microphone off. It's not going to have any effect. And triggers is the other one. And all the other ones are left off. Cool. So what we're going to do is there's two ways of recording. normally only the camera is on for eye gaze. And when the camera is on, it's using, take these off for a moment, it's using which way I'm looking. Now, if it's not working very well, you click the reset pose, and that resets to say, okay, where you're sitting and where you're looking right now is the center. And that should hopefully help it get more accurate. Now, you might notice that the eyes are only looking in particular directions. And that's because there's this feature called snap eye gaze. I tend to find the camera inputs very hard to get accurate, and it jumps around a little bit. So snap eye gaze helps limit it to 9 directions. I'm going to turn on the mouse instead. What I can with the mouse on is it's going to look towards the mouse. You might notice that it's looking across, diagonally up, diagonally, straight across. And it's basically the 8 directions and center. And they're the only positions it can go with snap on. And so it's particularly useful with the camera to make sure it's very clear, the eyes are moving one way or the other, where the camera is not that accurate. But using the mouse, we can take that feature off, and now I can have quite good control over where the eyes are looking. Now, it's not actually looking towards the cursor. It's looking, the center of the screen is straight ahead. And so if I move Wookie over to one side, let's transform. Let's put him over to one side. Then it's still the center is straight ahead. And so this is something to remember when you're using the mouse. It's the center of the screen that's straight ahead, not the middle of his face. Because if I click on the middle of his face, you see he's looking over to the side there. Just by clicking down, letting go, and so forth. Now, this guy, I put a feature scene. I've actually put movement on. I think I'm going to turn off that. I'm just going to use the mouse. So I turned off the camera just to stop him bobbing all around the place all over the time. Cool. Now, so what we're going to do now is just do a simple recording. To control Lara, I can click that instead. And then I'm going to make him look over here. And he's going to roll his eyes. What is going on? Looking over to the side. And I'm going to hit Control R again to stop recording. Now, that was zoomed. Just changing the zoom factor a little bit. So down here is the zoom for this window, so you can control what the zoom is. If we come back to the beginning, oops, come back to the beginning, and we play that back again. His eyes go to one side, and then they should roll up and over. I did a nice slow record there. And he's looking over the other side. Cool. Now, if I wanted to keep looking at the end, if I grab this edge, I can actually drag it out. And it's a little bit hard to see. Down the bottom here, which is a way to magnify it, down the bottom edge is a little bit of diagonal lines hashing. And here where the real recording is, it's solid. And it's just a little subtle reminder to say, well, come over here, the eyes just hold the last position. And then when the recording ends, it snaps right back to the default, which is looking straight ahead. So they move just back over the edge. And so what it's done is it's extended out the last position the eyes were in all this time. And those little diagonal lines down the bottom here, if you can see them, are just showing that this has been extended. Cool. So what we can also could have done is recorded a trigger. And so the triggers are really part of the eyes to me, the eye triggers. So I've got one trigger here, which is a letter C. And I've got it hooked up to a closed. And it's basically trying to mimic him closing his eyes. And so what I might try and do is to say, Okay. I'm going to start with the eyes closed, and then going to open them up. Now, what happened there is you didn't see his eyes move. And the problem was that I had face, which was having no effect because the camera was off, but I also had eye gaze arm. And so it was, even because I didn't have the mouse down, it didn't actually record anything. It didn't show me the old values during playback. So if we come back here now and I sort of drag through, you see the eyes roll over? Whereas during recording now, I'm going to record another tape. And now I can see the eyes move. I'm going to close for a little bit at the top. And so what was happening was during recording, if I have it armed, it won't show me the previous values. It won't show me what I've already recorded. And because I wasn't doing anything for eyes, I wasn't using the mouse in this area at all, there's no point. And so by disarming it, I could then see the old recording and then play the triggers over the top. Now another little, so if we just play that one back, his eyes are going over there to the side, he starts to roll his eyes, and at the top, closes his eyes for a moment, and then they roll back over the other side. Now, if you remember, I'd done in the previous recording, and it's all grayed out now. And the reason is this take above, because I've recorded over the top of it, the top take wins. And in this case, it's only a little trigger just for this tiny bit of time, but this whole take wins, and so that's skewered that. And so I may want to drag this one back in, just so it doesn't override too much else. So now we've got the eyes closed longer at the beginning. Let's come back to the play. So the eyes are closed at the beginning, and then the roll and the close in the middle, and the finishing of the roll. And so you can layer different takes for triggers. But the triggers, you've got to worry about the whole bar. And if there's no action there, this is just a closed trigger. So it's just a separate take for the closed trigger. You've got to worry about how they overlap. You can just simply trim it back. I'm actually not going to keep that one, so I'm just going to delete it and just go back to this one closed. I don't actually need any closed eyes at all, just demonstrating. Okay. So what happens if I sort of said, I'm going to go to over here. He's looking this way for a while, but maybe I come along later on and I decide I really want the Wookie over here, and I really wanted Sam. Sam should have been over on this side. And now the Wookie's not looking at Sam anymore. I know, these annoying directors, they shouldn't change things like that, should they? But let's just pretend they did. So what we can do, so right about here, what I'm going to do is arm the eyes again. Back to the Wookie, because it was when I moved Sam across, it selected Sam. The reason that they actually moved is the transformer used to position X and all these X's and Y's and things, but it wasn't armed. And so I actually changed the default for that puppet for the scene. If it's armed, then it's like it was, if this was armed and I dragged it around, it actually sets up the initial value for the recording. Doesn't actually change anything in the puppet, but if I record, that will become the first position, the first value for that position. It's a difference there. Okay, so how do we get him to look the other way? Well, okay, come back to Wookie. I've got to turn back on the eye gaze to arm. And now I can make him look the other way by clicking. So I'm clicking it over to the side, and let's take a record. Okay. So his eyes were looking down and towards Sam. And let's see what this looks like now. I'm just going to click, just press, just play back. He rolls his eyes. And suddenly his eyes jumped over, and suddenly they jumped back. Oh, that's not really very nice, is it? So what can we do about it? Well, I'm going to drag it out a little bit longer. It's going to hold that last position, just to make it a little bit clearer down here. But what we've got is in the two corners, there's a little tiny box up in the corner. What's happening is the old recording with the eyes pointing one way was in effect, and suddenly, bang, right about there, his eyes jump to the other side. And so that's where blends become useful. So if you grab that little corner, that little box in the top corner, and just pull it across a little bit, what it does is it averages between the two, and the degree of the blend tells it how much to take of the old value versus the new one. And so what will happen is the eyes smoothly go across and smoothly go back. And so this is what blends are useful for. You can record over the top. You can blend in the new recording on top with the previous recording. Let's watch it again. And the eyes went backwards and forwards. And so it's a bit nicer. It was a little bit smoother. And so it's a useful trick. If you want to record over the top rather than redoing the whole recording, blends can help mix it in nicely. Now, one thing I haven't talked about is this number times up here. There is a playback speed and there is a recording speed. So if you want to record slower to try and get more accurate positionings and so forth, you can slow down the recording. And the playback, you can slow that down as well. So it can be useful. I'm not going to use it here, but it is useful sometimes. Okay, so how about another situation that comes up? I've recorded over the top, but I've decided that I really want to extend the whole scene out. I've got to move everything along by a little bit. Well, what do I do with this recording? You know, I might have a whole lot of interesting things over here in the recording. So what am I going to do? Well, there's another thing you can do, which is click. I'm going to put the play head in the middle. I've got that particular long track selected. I'm going to go up and say Edit, Split. And what it does is it takes that take and cuts it in two. And so I've really got two takes now. One up to that point, one after that point. What I can then do is take the second take and slide it along. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one on top, bring it along a little bit, just to demonstrate. I can use that recording in the middle to now help fill in that gap. So I could move these two takes, split it, move the second take along, and then use this first take, record another take over the gap to join the two back together again. And so now any data over here, any recordings I've got over beyond this point are preserved, which might line up to a whole lot of other things going on. And so it's just another useful reason for doing another record over the top is to split an existing take so you can drag some stuff along, but you've got to fill in the gap. So, and what will it look like? There's the rolling eye. The eye flips over, so it's looking down at Sam, blends back, and keeps going. Cool. Now, a little bit of the trick, and it can sometimes be useful, is what's actually happened is behind the scenes, there is still one recording that full length, but this one's actually been trimmed. So if I pull this one back out, all of the original recording was actually still accessible to it. And the same with this one. If I click it, I can bring it all the way back to the start of the scene in actual fact, because the split command didn't actually split the actual underlying data. It's just chopped it in two and trimmed the edges for me. But they're both pointing to the same underlying recording, just different trimmed sections of it. And so that can be useful if you want to sort of, I could pull that back. Just going to delete that recording there. And so I've sort of joined the two of them back up by just overlapping them just by pulling it. And so this has got the original recording. I slid that one along and pulled this edge back. And so it's going to reuse some of the earlier part of this recording and put a little bit of a blend to smooth it on. Now, this might not actually look that good. We're going to see what it comes out like. So it's looking over the other side. Starts to roll the eyes. and then it's the second half of the rolling of the eyes. You might see that it's sort of smoothly blended back. It's the second half of the roll of the eyes. That's because when I did the split, it's got two different trimmed parts out of the full thing. And so when I grabbed that left edge and extended it back, I got the old recording back, which was during the eye roll. So it's just useful just to understand that if you get some strange behaviors. It's only if you grab the edge and pull it after you do a split, you might get the sort of thing you don't expect. Because you can also do things like edit, duplicate, and now I've got two copies of that same take, and so I can start saying, okay, I'm gonna do another blend and doing the eye. Okay, so we've got the first eye roll, then it goes back, it does a second eye roll, and blends back, it does another eye roll. So I can just reuse that section just by duplicating and dragging and so forth. Anything else I want to say? So the most important parts out of this was the idea of recording. Make sure you arm the things you want to record. That you can record over the top just a little bit if you want to patch the eyes, for example. So this was this little bit of recording. Actually, I deleted it. But you can record over the top just to fix it a little bit in the middle. But then these blends, grabbing that little top corner and pulling it in a little bit just to smooth the transition from the old to the new, that can be useful. And the other one was splitting, so you can drag the take along and record over that gap in between, or extend out and sort of blend between the two recordings so you can move the recordings along. Cool. Oops. Well, that's all I wanted to say in this episode. I hope you found that useful. Coming back to me. Hey, I'm back again. It's always good to be back. And so what we're going to do is end this one up here. Hope you found this one useful. A couple of things about recording and blending and recording over the top. Blending works with a whole lot of settings in exactly the same way. Hope you found it useful. See you next time.